Hi, and welcome to this week's In the Pipeline. I'm business reporter Erich Schwartzel.
And I'm Beth Ponsot from the Multimedia Department here at the Post-Gazette.
And our favorite topic got a big shout out in Wednesday night's presidential debate, with GOP candidate Mitt Romney saying President Obama's failed energy policy includes a missed opportunity in, what else? The Marcellus Shale.
We can become energy secure, and we can create jobs right here in the United States by developing our own energy resources. And this president, blocking offshore drilling, stopping the capacity to build new coal plants, this president having held up nuclear plants and not developing the Marcellus shale gas and other shale oil around this country, he's just strangling America's economy.
Now, it appears that Governor Romney skipped some of the pronunciation lessons that we took before we started Pipeline, stumbled a little bit over the words Marcellus Shale. He was governor of Massachusetts, which is pretty frack-free, but he did say that the president's policies were strangling shale development.
In his defense, though, Marcellus Shale is a really hard word to say.
It is. It's also two words.
Indeed, 2 words. Good point.
That's what I'm here for. He also assailed Obama's stance on nuclear power and said smart energy investment could help our nation's high unemployment rate. This will not be the last we hear of natural gas drilling in the 2012 election, lest you think you can sit this one out. Governor Rick Perry of Texas is running for the nomination on a promise for job growth, but opponents last night said his state's oil and gas reserves gave him an unfair advantage when it came to employment. Now, according to the New York Times, the oil and gas industry now brings in more than $300 billion a year to his state, and it accounts for $13 billion in state tax receipts, financing up to 20% of the state budget. That wasn't all in the energetic debate last night. Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann promised to bring gasoline prices back down to $2 a gallon should she win the presidency. So it looks like the fight for the GOP nomination is not going to skip the debates happening here in Pennsylvania as well.
Absolutely not. And speaking of debates, this week we saw renewed focus on fracking in Philly as the city hosted the Marcellus Shale Coalition's 2011 Shale Gas Insight Conference. Post-conference coverage has focused mostly on statements made by 2 former governors of Pennsylvania. Tom Ridge, first of all, who used his half-hour opening remarks to repeatedly urge on the development of American energy resources, and Ed Rendell, who, in sharp contrast to most of the other speakers at the convention, offered up some pretty serious criticism of the industry.
We have a theme this week, all governors all the time.
All governors all the time. But anyway, Ed Rendell said that drillers have failed at both backing a reasonable severance tax and investing in the state's environment. So that was some pretty tough criticism for an industry conference, I would say.
Absolutely. It's much more exciting than most events with lanyards.
Well, noticeably missing from the former governor back and forth at the convention was our current governor, Tom Corbett. He skipped the conference to coordinate the state's emergency response to the massive flooding that has hit Pennsylvania over the past 48 hours. And Corbett's decision to forego his convention speech was pretty much a disappointment to attendees who had been looking forward to finally hearing about what gas legislation he's most likely to support this fall.
He'll have to just come on the show and tell us.
I know, he's really going to have to. We're going to get him on the show, just you wait. So if you missed any of the Shale Gas Conference's titillating highlights, you can check out our Storify, where we chronicled the event in real time as it played out across social media. And we also included a lot of the protest coverage in our Storify, so you can see some of the protests that were happening outside the convention while the remarks were taking place.
Although I think we might have a new word for protester. There was new vocabulary word introduced at the conference by Chesapeake Energy CEO Aubrey McClendon, and that word is fractivist.
Fractivist, our word of the week.
Fractivist, our word of the week. Mr. McClendon opened his remarks at the conference in Philadelphia with this acknowledgement. Quote, "Only in this, the freest country in the world, can people express their opinions enthusiastically and publicly. That holds for the so-called fractivists protesting outside and the factivists in this room. When I say factivist, you say no. When I say factivist, I mean all of you who share a commitment to use knowledge and common sense to safely and responsibly produce the natural gas our country so desperately needs."
So he really came up with 2 words, not one, because I've never heard factivist before, but maybe that's just because, I don't get out too much.
I've never heard factivist either, but I think I'd like to add it to my business card.
Okay, we should probably do that.
For In the Pipeline, I'm Erich Schwartzel, factivist here at the Post-Gazette.
And I'm Beth Ponsot, Chief Factivist. Have a great weekend.